Hello and welcome back to the Armchair QBs. Week 15 done. We've only got 2 more weeks of the regular season left, Dan.
What a regular season it's been. Ups, downs, lefts, rights, and it doesn't look as though that's going to change in the next 2 weeks. There's some interesting run-ins given the results from this week, so it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. But this week was, I think it was kind of lots of top v bottoms, and then we had KC New Orleans, so we'll see what we've got to talk about. As I say, preparation's cheating.
Yeah, exactly. When have we ever prepared? So let's start. What's it? The Chargers against the Raiders. This was a really good game. Chargers won 30-27 in overtime, and I finally got what I have been clamouring for all this year for the Raiders: the flying Hawaiian Marcus Mariota, who looked good.
Meh.
I thought he looked pretty good coming in cold.
Yeah, I think it's exactly what you would want from a backup quarterback coming in, but it's a bit strange. I mean, to me, it might be his best game in about 3 years. So to say that this is Marcus Mariota and this is what he does, I don't think we can go that far. But I think for every team, if you said, right, our quarterback's going to go down very early in the game, and the backup's got to come in and try and keep us relevant and give us a chance to win, that's exactly what you want, and that's what Mariota gave him from this game.
No, I just thought it was good to see him out. I thought he kind of got stunted a bit in Tennessee with all the changes, and it was just a situation where he needed a clean break, and unfortunately nobody was willing to take the risk on him as a starter. If he gets to show himself a bit, that's good. He's still under contract for a year, but we'll see. Herbert is probably going to end up keeping Anthony Lynn in a job.
Well, you've flip-flopped on this about every week, because whenever you say he's going to, that's Anthony Lynn done, I say, all right, okay, we'll just wait and see how the season ends up. Even though my own personal opinion is that he should go. There was still a whole load of calamity, special team snafus. The team just generally doesn't seem to be kind of cohesive, have a direction. And I think that's essentially because of the way that he set up the offensive play calling as well. Seems to have an input now. I mean, it's a no-name coordinator. And week to week, if they finish strong, then they'll say, well, this is more of the team that we expected coming into the year. It's been COVID. We'll give them another shot. But I think that's a mistake. I think they need to get a kind of a creative mind on the offensive side of the ball in there and just take Anthony Lynn out of it, because he's a nice guy, but much like Vic Fangio, I don't think they're set up to be head coaches in this league. So good guys, good at what they do, but maybe not head coaches.
I know, of course, the other story on this is that this is pretty much killing the Raiders' playoff hopes as well. With that loss, they've just completely fallen apart down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, another late season collapse, and it all kind of, that kind of end of the way that the end of the game played out. You've got a 4th and goal at the 5. Why don't you just go for it and give the Chargers 95 yards to go? I know it's OT. I know then if they get a field goal, all they have to do is win. But they ended up marching down the field and getting a touchdown anyway. Why not just try and finish it on that first possession with a touchdown?
I think Gruden's just so conservative right now, and it is really showing. But I agree, that's the play that I would have made. Anyway, so then we had the Saturday games. Buffalo went to Denver. They had to win to win the AFC East and clinch a playoff spot for the first time since 1995.
I think that's the first division where I got right and you got wrong. Is that right?
Yes, it will be.
Sorry, we'll just emphasise that. I got it right, you got it wrong.
I did get it wrong. I got it less right than you.
Yeah, by about 2 or 3 spots.
Yes. But Bills went down.
Look, don't worry. I'm wrong in a hell of a lot of things. I just need to, whenever I'm right, I need to take full advantage of it. You've actually been right on quite a lot of your bold predictions this year. I will give you credit for that. But the Bills just completely handled Denver. I think like the Bills, we know where they're going with this. That there's not really too much to talk about them until I think we do maybe a preview of the playoffs, and then we'll
maybe spend a bit more time on them. But for Denver, just a quick question on them. Can Elway survive another year? Because I don't think Drew Lock's the answer. And if you look at his run on quarterbacks that he's had, there's no other general manager that would survive this.
Yeah, but I think the other thing you have to kind of understand just now is that the ownership situation is so in flux that they might just keep John Elway in to keep some semblance of stability within the organisation, albeit not satisfactory. Not satisfactory stability, because again, I've not looked into it too much, but just in the background, I know that obviously Pat Bowlen died. There seems to be a dispute, as there always is with any NFL team, when the owner dies. Who gets it? The wife, the girlfriend, the daughters. Was he of, did he have capacity when he made the will? How's it all going? I mean, that's the same way that it's going in New Orleans just now. For Denver, I think he probably does survive, and I think, depending on where they're picking, depending on the way free agency goes, I can see Drew Lock there back, next year. I can see him giving him a third year of a rookie contract and just building and saying, right, we lost Cortland Sutton for the year. We had a few other injuries. We had some disappointing situation. We had lots of injuries in the secondary. Let's come back, have a full year of prep, no COVID, and see where we are. And I think that's probably more likely rather than a change at quarterback for Denver.
I mean, just now, the way things stand, they would be picking 9th. So maybe, I don't know if you'd want to take a flyer on anybody outside of the top 2.
No, I mean, no, not in the first round. And they took Lock second round two and a bit years ago now. At 9, that's, in the upcoming draft, I think there's going to be lots of deep positions just elsewhere other than quarterback, because there'll be the top 2. Then everybody will talk themselves into 3 and 4, saying they should be in the bottom half of the first round. And at 9, it'll probably be a reach for any of those, even though we're very, very early in the process. So, I mean, Denver should probably perhaps be thinking about, dropping down a few spots, picking up an extra second or fourth, and trying to build a roster from that perspective, from where they are. And that's really all I've got to say on the Broncos. I mean, they've had a pretty miserable season, and so they are now kind of thinking of off-season mode and what they're going to do. But for the Bills, I thought they would win. I didn't think this is how they would win. And so I can only take maybe 75% for saying that they would win that, pretty much because I thought that the Patriots would be abysmal, which is about right. But I did not expect Josh Allen to have the type of season that he has. Now, sure, he came out the gates flying, and then he had a little bit of a lull, but he's come back the last kind of 3-4 games, and he's really kind of put the team on his back. And so rather than it being a run game and good defense, which is what we expected from the Bills, it's essentially been okay defense and just the offense through Josh Allen blowing teams apart early on and then managing to keep that gap throughout the rest of the game. So, yeah, good season from Josh Allen. Really, really changed his perception in a lot of people's eyes. And the only thing now is, will he be the same quarterback when Brian Daboll goes? We'll see.
Yeah. The other Saturday game was the Panthers taking on the Packers. Panthers lose this one 16-24. Packers just kind of went into Kansas City mode. They just kind of cruised into this one, in my opinion. I didn't really see them. They weren't overly troubled by Carolina.
No, but you got to remember that they're doing this to spite me.
Yeah.
Because I said that 8.5 was a bit too rich, and I wanted a touchdown, I think, or maybe even I wanted a little bit less, and you said no, I was only allowed 0.5, and so I took it down to 8. And what did they give me? A fucking push. Yep. So that is who Green Bay are just now. You say you've got difficulties with KC and the spreads over or under a touchdown. Green Bay are much like what the Steelers are doing. They weren't, they're not bypassing anybody with great authority. I mean, they're solid, they're good, they've got great players, and Rodgers has been very good for the whole season. But he threw for sub 150 in this game, and it isn't the kind of authoritative performance you want from potentially, a potential NFC bye.
I honestly just think they have stretches where they can just turn it on, and I just think they didn't even get out of, never mind third gear. I don't think they got out of second gear here at all. Yeah. It was short week. Let's just get out of this without getting injured. we can handle these guys, and that's it.
Panthers fumbled on the goal line. They then turned that into points. It was kind of 14-3. If the Panthers get the touchdown there, it changes a bit of the dynamic. Do I still think Green Bay would have been in trouble? No. But I mean, there was a good stretch either side of the half where we had like 7 straight punts. So that middle eight wasn't very exciting. But again, you can't deny what the Packers have done over the last 2 years. I mean, I'm not saying that they're not going to lose any games throughout this year, but it's currently sitting at 24-3 for Matt LaFleur. But Carolina looking for that elusive 5th win that we promised them.
Yeah, we'll see if they get it. Seahawks took on the football team from Washington. Seahawks won 20-15. Washington really kept it close in spite of Haskins. And then Haskins decided to go out and celebrate the loss by going to the strip club maskless. Well done, Dwayne. You've probably just screwed yourself out of getting any more starts this year. Washington say they're going to handle this matter internally. So that means a benching.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, you're asking Haskins to win a game off of 55 attempts. Now, he completed 38 for 295. That's fine. But he's still an inexperienced, erratic quarterback. So, and you might still, and you kept the game to within 5 points. I'm not going to beat up on Washington too much. I mean, for the majority on the offense, they have okay talent, and we kind of detailed it a little bit in that win they got over the Steelers. But I don't know. Much like we said very early on, this is not how Washington are built to beat you, and so. I'm still very surprised at Seattle's performance as well. I mean, it's a bit underwhelming from them. They got a bonus with the Rams not winning, which we will certainly come on to later, but not really. Again, the NFC in its totality is just really underwhelming. And I mean, anybody looking for a bet, I mean, I don't know what the odds will be, but I'm pretty sure that the Super Bowl champion coming from the AFC will be more than odds on.
Yeah, I think it is. But I mean, with the NFC, it's like you say, like, who can you pick out and go, this is the team that I think can get to the Super Bowl? You can't pick out one team. There's no one team that's elite. They all have flaws. They're all, you can pick them apart. Even with Green Bay, who have kind of walked in that number 1 seed. Jacksonville, Baltimore, Jacksonville 14, Baltimore 40. I mean, this was putrid from Jacksonville. Like I was watching some of the breakdowns of what Gruden had schemed up, and I mean, if they've got Trevor Lawrence, God help them. God help them. Because you'd hope that Jay Gruden is nowhere near it, but it was just awful.
How so? Anything a little bit more with detail?
There was for the safety, there was the play action where they were basically starting from their own 2-yard line, decided to go for a deep drop play action where both the wide receiver, they only had 2 wide receivers running routes. Both of them decided to fall as well, which didn't help matters. But just schematically, there was like nothing for Minshew to do on that play. He could only throw it to 2 options, which starting from your own end zone, I don't think is the best thing, especially against that Baltimore front. And there was another one where he was doing a lot of like 8-man protections, which I didn't really get against Baltimore because it left Minshew really struggling.
Again, if you count Minshew as a backup quarterback, he comes in, goes 22-29 for 226 and 2 TDs. You can't really ask much more than that, but it just meant absolutely nothing when you're playing Baltimore in the form that they are, and you have a run defense like Jacksonville's. I mean, Baltimore really lucked into this little stretch of games to finish the year because I mean, I thought they were dead. I thought they were done. I thought they were dusted, and they've managed to get on a run of three straight wins. Could potentially finish the season against the Giants and the Bengals with a 5-game win streak and sneaking into the playoffs if the Raiders manage to capitulate. So, sorry, and I think it's more Miami actually. Sorry, if Miami.
It's Miami, and it is set up This is set up so nicely for the Browns to Browns it. If Baltimore keep winning, the Browns' last game is against the Steelers.
Yeah, well, I've been saying this for weeks.
Yeah, it is set up perfectly for the Browns to Browns it.
Yeah, no, I mean, the Bengals just beat the Steelers, and so theoretically anything could happen against the Ravens. It is football, but we'll maybe kind of talk about the Browns and the Steelers and as a kind of whole against the Ravens just now. But I've been looking at that Browns-Steelers game for about the last 3-4 weeks. I think I've said it every week. People will be sick to death of me saying the same shit for the last couple of weeks, but I've just had my eye on it, thinking that will be a really, really, really interesting game as to how the division's all going to play out, especially if the Steelers consider this continue this free fall. Who knows how the season's going to go? But for the Ravens, they've just come against poor run team against the Cowboys. The Browns didn't show up, but their run defense isn't stellar, and they only won by 3 points, 5 if you consider the safety as well. And then again, a very, very poor run defense in the Jaguars, so a little bit stiffer for the Giants next week. But everything seems to be coming together, and especially that kind of Lamar Jackson run game seems to be back as well. So positive, but I wish there hadn't been that period of the Patriots, Titans, and Steelers where they just looked dead.
Yeah, but I think you can say that it was a pretty tough schedule. If you take it out the Patriots there, but it was still pretty hard going, that middle part.
Yeah, Patriots was the weather, Titans was injuries, Steelers was again COVID. So I mean, there's explanation for a lot of those, but you just have to go with what the record is, and we'll see how it plays out in the next 2 weeks. But I tell you what, if Baltimore ends up a kind of an away team in the AFC playoffs, that might be. We could always talk ourselves into saying that it's a bonus or that it's preferable, but they haven't liked it at home in the playoffs the last 2 years, so why not change things up and make them go on the road, make them earn it?
I mean, there's no pressure on Baltimore this year. Realistically, is there? What pressure is on them? They're not heavy favourites. Everybody's been saying that they've been playing like crap, which I think could play into their hands.
Well, I think that's what I was kind of going for. But
yeah,
if there wasn't that 3-game loss and they were so low and they had like 15 players off on COVID and it was in the building and everything was just going wrong for them, and 3 weeks, what a difference it makes. And we're now thinking about the Ravens as not potential upstarts, but atypical upstarts maybe is the best way to put it.
Next game we have the Lions taking on the Titans. Titans dominate this game, winning 46-25. I put like £5 on Derrick Henry to win the MVP, and he could do it. He's only 321 yards away from 2,000 yards.
Doesn't matter. Running backs don't matter. As long as Patrick Mahomes is there doing what he's doing, it won't matter.
I don't think Patrick Mahomes wins it. If a quarterback wins it, it's going to be Aaron Rodgers.
When was the last non-quarterback to win it?
Adrian Peterson. 2012, I think.
The last 20 years then, maybe I should say.
I mean, yeah, it has been a bloody long time. Let me see. I've got the list up here. So, yeah, the last one to win it, the last running back to win it was Lamar Jackson in 2019. No, so last one to win it was Adrian Peterson in 2012. And if you were to go back 20 years, there was in 2000 Marshall Faulk. Then you had Sean Alexander in 2005, LaDainian Tomlinson in 2006. And it was 6 years until Adrian Peterson.
Yeah,
so we are due one.
Yeah, but in the modern day NFL, I mean, back when Sean Alexander and Marshall Faulk, I mean, Marshall Faulk was slightly different in the kind of great show and turf type. I mean, that would be in the Rams season that he would have won it.
Yeah.
And, Sean Alexander, again, that was for the amount of touchdowns. I mean, it's strange to think that Sean Alexander won it and LaDainian Tomlinson didn't. I mean, we're getting really, really, really off tangent here, but I think Sean Alexander must have been 1,800 plus yards and about 30 touchdowns or something like that, and that's why he won.
But then, so Sean Alexander won it 2005, and then LaDainian Tomlinson won it 2006.
Oh, there we go. Right.
So it was one team.
Did you say that before?
Yeah.
Oh, I just wasn't listening. Sorry.
Yeah. Then that's your issue.
Right. Okay. Right. Right. Okay. Anyway, back to modern day Titans. Okay, it's not all about Derrick Henry though. I mean, I was wrong in my preseason posturings about the questionability of signing Ryan Tannehill back to $100 million because he has been pretty much worth every single penny that the Titans have put into him this year. And it just goes to show what a change of scenery can do for you. Because, I mean, if you consider Ryan Tannehill over the last 2 years and what he did in the totality of his time in Miami, it really is quite stark. I mean, even in the last 5 games, I mean, 270, 200, 389, 221, 251, only 2 interceptions over the last 5 games. It's just really, really impressive. I mean, he was built for this offense and the way that Arthur Smith has set it up. And it is a lot of play action, but that's what he's executing and that's what he's doing well. So it really is rather impressive, how Ryan Tannehill has pretty much kind of, molded himself into this team. And he's going to be, I think, a fixture now pretty much for, however, it was a 5-year deal that he got?
Yeah. I think he's going to be... It just goes to show that if you change the situation, it can really work for you.
Yeah, but I think this is kind of a total symbiotic pairing of the run game with Derrick Henry, because I mean a run game with another running back, you still don't have the success, and then with another game with another running back, it changes everything, the way the defense plays you, and then what Tannehill's allowed to do. So, I mean that pairing, signing them both together, I criticised at the time. I was wrong because looking at the Tennessee Titans, I mean this is the first time the Titans are going to be relevant for 2 years in a row for about the last 20 years. Probably since Steve McNair left. So yeah, no, Titans a good team. Strange to say it, but it really is quite impressive what they've done the last 2 years. And I've just been more on the Colts side, but I don't think I can be too blind to what the Titans are doing now.
Bears at Vikings. Chicago Bears win 33-27, and the Bears there's a chance that the Bears get into the playoffs.
I should have done this beforehand, but give me 2 seconds just to figure this out. What is Trubisky's actual record when he's started games? Because it must be something like 6-2 or maybe 7.
Let me look that up just now. Mitchell the Bitchel.
He's 5-1 in games that he started. No,
yes.
Sorry, no,
5-2.
5-2. He's 5-2 in games that he started. So. But to be fair, those 5 wins are against Detroit, New York, Atlanta, Houston, and Minnesota. All pretty low-level teams.
Minnesota are...
Well, I mean, they're at the same level as the Bears just now. So how much do you want to say that Minnesota are okay? Are you saying that the Bears are okay? Are the Bears okay with Trubisky?
This goes back to the NFC just being like a clusterfuck of a conference where you can't have a solid opinion on any team because they're maddeningly inconsistent. Right.
Well, let's just go back to preseason. What we said, I said that they would have the narrative of Trubisky starting, so they could say that they drafted him, they tried to work with him, see how the games are going, and then if he totally collapsed, they'd bring in Foles. You were of the opinion that they should just start Foles. He was the better quarterback.
Yes.
Well, Mitchell was essentially winning 2.5 games and then was pulled halfway through the Detroit game. And then Chicago went on the run that they have where they have been absolutely putrid up until 3 weeks ago where they started Mitchell again. So I'm not saying I was right in that Mitchell Trubisky was the better quarterback. I'm saying that he was the better quarterback for the team because of the results that he's been able to provide. I mean, he's also played okay. He's played okay.
Yeah.
Not great. Not what you would want from a number 2 overall pick, but he's played okay and he's got them wins.
I do think, the hard thing for Trubisky is that no matter what he does in his career, he will always be linked against 2 transcendent young quarterbacks that were drafted after him. And that's not his fault. I do actually think that him having a change of scenery after this year is probably what he needs so that he can get away from those expectations. But yeah, he hasn't played terrible. He's played okay, like you say. It's not been... Yeah, there's I can't say that he's been awful. He's just been okay. Like his second best completion percentage of his career. And
Again, so a small sample size, but the last 2 games, I mean, he's plus 70%. Bill Lazor's calling the plays, not Matt Nagy. They're doing stuff slightly differently, a little bit more jet motion, stuff like that, rather than all these kind of RPOs that he was having a lot of trouble with. But I mean, don't get me wrong, he just will not pull the trigger on some really, really open throws, and it's unclear why. So he's not the answer. But would they have been in a better position for a wild card spot and not just on the cusp of it if he had started the whole season through? Is a question we'll never have the answer to. But on the basis of the games that he's played, if you took that as a sampling point, you would have to say that it's more probable than not.
Yeah.
Well,
I guess so. I don't know. It's just so hard. It's so hard to tell because those 2 games were against Green Bay and Detroit. He was pretty bad.
Yeah, but I mean, Foles has been kind of almost Wentz-like, so...
Yeah. Well, let's move on.
We've spent far too much time on fucking the Bears, Trubisky and Nick Foles.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing on this is the Bears do have a chance to get into a playoff spot. If the Cardinals lose this week and the Bears win, we could see them in contention. This podcast is going to be just where after it your ego is going to be very inflated. Another game where you were absolutely correct preseason. New England Patriots 12, Miami Dolphins 22. Cam Newton's in the Drew Brees camp for me. If he was a horse, he would be, the tarp would be pulled up and he would be shot.
Yeah, the problem is Cam Newton's going to be trying to play for the next 5 years somewhere. But this was, right. Let's not kid ourselves. I've got certain opinions about certain quarterbacks, and all I said was just hold your horses. Cam hasn't been, good throwing the ball since his MVP season. This isn't a great scenario for him, and I didn't think that the Patriots would be as bad as they are. There's no way that I thought that the Patriots are going to be as bad as they were. Right? That's just it. But at the same time, the defense has been so bad that it allows. Miami were still poor in this game. All right. They were still poor, but they managed to pull something out of their ass with backups upon backups upon backups at running back, wide receiver, and tight end.
Yeah.
And a really, really, really low level quarterback. It's a terrible to us. I'm sorry. I don't care if he went 20 for 26. He only threw for 145 yards. No touchdown.
But again, you've just caveated. Who were his wide receivers this week?
Right, but it doesn't matter. Each week it's been the exact same. And I don't care. We've got 2 rushing touchdowns for him. Right, one was a sneak, and one was one after. What's the name of the DB for the Patriots? Jackson. He comes free off the edge and he jumps up rather than just going right through Tua, and somehow Tua kind of minces his way into. Can you say mince anymore? Anyway, I don't think you can.
I think you can. International listeners don't know its connotations. You're fine.
Okay. All right. Well, he then meanders his way into the end zone, and so there's 14 points there. But this is not off the arm of Tua, and he has the wins, but he doesn't have the performances to make you think that this is.
So I agree with you, and I was actually listening to Ryan Russillo's podcast today, and he had Trent Dilfer on, and Dilfer was pretty much saying the exact same. Like if you look at what's happening with Tua, this isn't the Tua that you saw at Alabama, but if you go take a step out of it and look at what the Dolphins organization are doing and why they're successful, they don't have the players around Tua to let Tua do what he was doing at Alabama. They don't have a guy that can really stretch the field vertical. And what Dilfer was kind of saying correctly was how you can tell Flores is a really good coach is he's not trying to force a square peg into a round hole. He's just saying, this is what the guys can do around you. So we're just going to let them do that, and it's your job to just facilitate that. So that's why you're seeing a very game manager like effort and approach from Tua. And he's thinking like next year, if they go out, get a wide receiver, get some speed like a Henry Ruggs type, that's when you'll start to see the real Tua. And he has worked with Tua, so he's maybe a little bit biased, but I thought it was a pretty honest and fair analysis of him. And that's why I'm maybe not as harsh on Tua as...
Yeah, no, this all comes from money and the fact that Dilfer's tied to him. Sorry.
I mean, he's not anymore, because
okay,
Dilfer's got a high school football job.
No, Dilfer has all these kind of camps, and then he works with them, in between the end of the college season, the draft, and he gets paid for them as well. And so he has to be able to show that what he's doing is having a positive effect on players for when they go into the pros to make them pro ready. And so that's why he's coming out with all these caveats and explanations and reasons for why Tua is not setting the world on fire like Justin Herbert is. So I'll take everything that Dilfer says about Tua with a massive pinch of salt. And you have to take everything that I say about Tua with a massive pinch of salt, because we said when we were doing the draft, I wouldn't take him. I wouldn't take Tua, and that's me. And so I'm going to try and find everything to justify that take as well. So I am looking at it through kind of salt tinted glasses. Let's mix those metaphors.
Yes.
As is the custom. But I just think that you're sitting there. You had the 5th pick. Chargers had the 6th pick, and this could be a nice 10-minute segment on ESPN 2 years from now on redrafting, but I would quite like to redraft after this season, see how it plays out.
I would take... I'll tell you right now, I would take Herbert number 1.
Of course you would.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that,
Yeah.
So, and this will go into our conversations about Lawrence down the road, and I want you to remember exactly what you said about Tua Tagovailoa just now when Lawrence is in Jacksonville next year struggling. All right?
I am prepared for that, but again, there's a lot of outside factor. I think Lawrence is, regardless of where he goes, if Jacksonville win again or whatever and they fuck it up, let's just say it's between Jacksonville and the Jets, regardless of where he goes out of those two situations, he's going to struggle that first year.
Yeah, no, but and we'll have a lot of time to talk all over this, but it seems from our initial discussions that aren't recorded that you're going to try and set up a position of maybe he shouldn't be the first one taken. And if that's right, you're fucking mad.
No, that is not my position.
Right. Well then just keep it, and we'll
Yeah, we'll keep it. Yeah. Right. After that little tangent. Yeah. Let's go to the game that nobody cares about, even though there are playoff implications. 49ers at Cowboys. Cowboys win 41-33. There's rumblings now that the Cowboys might look to offload Zeke this off-season. I don't know who would be in the market for him, to be honest.
Again, let's just have I think it's probably more. The thing is, even if you cut him or you trade him, the cap number I think is still too big. Always have a look.
It definitely is. This is why you don't overpay running backs.
That's why you don't overpay anybody. Goff, Wentz, Zeke, Gurley. You give anybody these big contracts, and then all of a sudden the year afterwards they're not doing too well, and all of a sudden it's, oh my god, why did we give them so much money?
If you cut them, you've got 24 million against the cap.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
it's just not going to happen.
Well, what's his cap at? 13 million next year.
No,
possibly tradable.
No, it's still not going to happen.
It's
not with all. Every team has got reduced cap number, and right, okay, 13 million, fair enough. I still just do not see that happening. It's not 24, but certainly no, I can't see it happening.
No, I just it's a no from me. Texans took on the Colts. What? Well, Watson took on the Colts. Texans lose 20-27. Watson was absolutely phenomenal in this game, but he can't do it himself. It's just this just goes to show that like football is truly a team game, and it doesn't matter how good the quarterback is that you have if you don't have anything around them.
Maybe a Clemson quarterback won a national championship, goes to a team with no talent. No, we're not going back into that. Anyway, I mean, Texans could have come out of the series with wins both times. Obviously, they messed up the snap in the first game, and then they've fumbled going into the end zone. On this one, they would have tied it up. That's for sure. But yeah, I mean, a story of what might have been in relation to this, because they could have certainly taken the Colts out of playoff contention over these two games, but the Colts scraped by again. I mean, but again, the Colts are what they are. They play solidly. They don't, give you much on the defensive side of the ball. And at the moment, Rivers and our running game seems to be working, and that's essentially what it is. I mean, Jonathan Taylor over the last couple of weeks has managed to actually become an NFL running back, whereas for the majority of the season he hasn't been, and that's what we all expected at the beginning of the season. So
he's done well. I thought the last couple of weeks he's really come into his own.
Yeah, well, 91 yards, 150, 83 over the last 3 games, and 3 touchdowns. 3 of them obviously were in the last 2 games, but it's that kind of presence that we were expecting with the offensive line and a running back that played power football at Wisconsin. We expected that to be what was in Philip Rivers to be a bit more complimentary rather than having to live off his arm. But I mean, they're in a division where there's another 11-4 team, so
yeah,
sorry, another 10-4 team. So it's I don't know.
Everyone matters, and that's the thing. Like the Colts and the Titans can't afford to slip up at all in this stretch.
No, Titans have a tiebreaker though. So
yeah, let's move on. Tampa Bay, Atlanta. Would you believe that Atlanta blew a halftime lead to Tom Brady?
Yeah, not as much as 28-3, but 17-0 at the half, and then just roasted 31-10 in the second. But you just saw it coming a mile off. Every single time that Red Zone came back and said Tampa Bay driving down the field, he just thought, yep, that makes sense. Yep, sure.
Yeah. It was almost like, see, in the first half, Mike Evans, they were covering him. And then in the second, at halftime, Raheem Morris was just like, don't fuck this up, guys. Don't worry. Just let him go. He's fine. You'll do nothing. And he was just wandering free, constantly wandering about the field, uncovered.
Well, might call that kind of halftime adjustments of some sort. But
I mean, not much really to say on this. It was, if you hate Tom Brady, you're going to say that he's not playing well. That's fine. He's certainly not peak Tom Brady, but he's still getting the job done, and he's still learning in a system that I still don't think is suited for him. Like, I don't know why they insist on having this deep passing game, which is not his strength at all.
Yeah, if only someone had maybe pointed that out pre-season and early in the season. Maybe.
Yeah. Look, Dan, you've been on a roll with praise here. Don't try and push it. Next game. Oh, New York. Oh, you.
J-E-T-S, Jets. Oh, you know what?
Stupid bastards.
I don't care. I'm just so happy. If only for one man, Frank Gore. Frank Gore, if he did have to retire at the end of the season, did not deserve to go 1-16. So I don't care. Number one, the Jets didn't go winless, and I put a lot of personal stock into that, saying you have no idea how difficult it is in the NFL to go winless, and even though they tried their goddamn best, they somehow managed to pull it out, against an NFC frontrunner. So I mean, what this is, 17-point spread was the beginning.
Yeah,
was the line at the beginning of the game. Jets care not a jot.
I just watching this game, when it was like getting cut back and forth between red zone. I've seen way too much Jets football this year, But this one actually felt different because you were just watching Jared Goff, and there's just games where Jared Goff has the gormless look on his face, and you just know that it's going to go bad for the Rams. Like, he had it in the Super Bowl. Super Bowl was like just a blank stare, just an absolute cretinous look. Like, just look for resting Goff face. And he had it in this game. And I don't know why. Like, it wasn't like they were going across country and, it was an early game. It was being played in LA. There was no reason for them to lose to the Jets.
No, and I mean, they were 5-1 in the new stadium before they lost at the weekend there, so they're now 5-2. But the thing is that Goff and McVay are so intertwined, because when it's going very well for the Rams, everybody says, "Oh, it's because that Goff has McVay in his ear right up until what's the cutoff? I think it's 10 seconds.
I think it's 10 seconds.
Yeah, 10 seconds. So, Goff's getting all this extra information from McVay, such a genius, it's all this kind of stuff. Well, they've got to take that when the Rams, throw stinkers like this as well. It's got to come down on McVay. If they're saying that that's when Goff's at his best, then the same situation must be happening. But then, is Goff just not executing it? I mean, is it all on him, or is McVay just sometimes get a little bit too kind of, not cocky or... it's quite possible for Sean McVay to be outcoached. You just never expected it to come from a DC-less, Adam Gase-led Jets team.
I think Goff turtles under adversity. We had, I was texting you about it, but we've heard all this chat about how San Francisco want to move on from, or could move on from, Jimmy G.
They will.
I also agree. Because I think they recognise that their ceiling is Jimmy G. They're only as good as he's going to be. The same is very much true for the Rams.
Well, the difference for San Francisco is because they front load their contracts. They've looked at what happens to other teams that give these big contracts and put a lot of money into the later years of the contract, and they see how it holds the team hostage. So they front load their contracts with a lot of the money, and so that's why I think Jimmy G's cap hit's only like $2.5 million or something next year, and that's why they can get out of it. And while Goff restructured his contract in the summer, it's still nowhere near for what you're asking as to whether or not they would move on from it. So,
so what I was saying in our chat, I'll say it here as well, is why don't we keep hearing that there's going to be, a lot of quarterbacks that will be available next year. I just wonder, why don't you bring somebody else in that can possibly push Goff? You can even just dangle the carrot out to somebody next year and just say, look, you're coming in and you've got the chance to compete here. Because I'm just looking at Goff's cap hits, and for the next 2 years, you're fucked. You're stuck with him. He's $34 million and $32 million. You realistically can only move on from him in 2023.
That's what we said, but then you end up with a situation that you have with Carson Wentz. 1 and 2 in the same draft, and now you've got 1 and 2 not living up to the billing, both being paid huge contracts, and you've got you're going to bring somebody in and sit Goff down and pay him $28 million over the year and have somebody else throw the ball. It's not how it's supposed to work.
It's not how it's supposed to work, but if it's what it takes for us as a team to win, that's what I would do.
But you can see the dynamic problem that it's created in Philadelphia, and it's going to have a massive impact probably on Peterson's job. May or may not be his fault, but why would you put your team into that situation where, all NFL teams talk about is not wanting distractions, not wanting distractions. And I just think that the Eagles have invited that distraction upon them, and I don't see why the Rams would do that. And because as much as Goff had his bad days, he's not had a bad season like Wentz, and he's not had a bad season other than under Jeff Fisher. So, next week, I would not be surprised if Goff came out and threw for 70%, 3 touchdowns and 300 yards, because that's the type of quarterback that he can be on a week-to-week basis. It's just he's not consistent over the whole year and does throw stinkers.
Yeah, I just think I don't know. Like the Rams have Super Bowl ambitions, and I think it will always be limited by Goff. So I guess if I'm a GM, I'd probably be gone because very quickly because I would make these rash decisions and just deal with the consequences. Be like
You'd have 17 different head coaches every year. Fire after every week.
Yeah, after. Well, I wouldn't let Sean McVay get back on the bus from the stadium after this one. But you lost to the Jets. You're gone. Bye. Anyway, we spoke about Wentz. Eagles took on the Cardinals, and this just developed into an air raid game. Like, fuck the run. Eagles 26, Cardinals 33. I did like the story coming out before kickoff, which definitely didn't come from Carson Wentz's camp, to Adam Schefter saying that he was unhappy with how this situation had played out, and he didn't want to stay if he was going to be a backup next year. Like, yeah, that is going to really help with the reputation that you have around the league of being mentally soft.
Yes, I really am just too sick of the Eagles right now. You know, the season needs to end. They need to get out of everybody's head until after the Super Bowl, and then free agency will happen, and that's when I'll start thinking about the Eagles again, quite frankly, because the way that Hurts has played has been interesting, but it's not stellar. It's better numbers than what Tua is doing. I think potentially he's giving them more options in Philadelphia than what Tua is giving them in Miami, but I just can't get excited about it. And I just think the Eagles are just so, there's too many camps with too many power grabs, and there's Peterson. He's got his interests. He'll be leaking that out. There's Jim Schwartz. He's got his interests. He'll be leaking that out. There's now Carson Wentz. He'll be doing that. Howie Roseman as well. Jeffrey Lurie. There's just, it's like a Roman tragedy waiting to happen, and the knives are going to come out at some point. And I just want to see how many people exit the room after they all walk in, because not everyone's coming out that's alive.
No, I think I think the knives are sharpening for Peterson. And
honestly, I'm sorry. I know you want a conversation about the Eagles, but it's just so mind-numbingly dull. The knives might, you say the knives might be sharpening, but it's like getting stabbed with a spoon. It's not really doing anything. It hurts like fuck, but I don't know. Just it's really.
It's a slow, painful, annoying death, and one that we'll all be relieved of in 2 weeks. Let's move on to the game of the Sunday slate. Chiefs at New Orleans. Chiefs win 32-29. Drew Brees was fucking awful. That first quarter. Yeah, that was hard to watch.
Yeah, but this is a true kind of box score lies game, because if you watch it with your eyes, you go, "Oh my fucking god!" But then you look at the box score, and it's like 234, 3 touchdowns. All right, okay, 1 interception, but he started the game for 0-5 for the first time in his career. Didn't complete a pass for the first 5 attempts, and he'd never done that before. You got to remember that as much as he's been off for 3 weeks, it's still. It's 11 ribs. There's a lot of soft tissue. There's a lot of mechanics. You'll be sore. It'll affect your breathing, affect your mobility, your rotation, just everything. And he looked like a guy that still was not anywhere close to 100% and shouldn't have been on the field. But they were playing the Chiefs. And I think if they were playing Washington, Philadelphia, New York, Giants or Jets, I don't think he's playing. I don't think he's playing. I think this is purely on the basis that the Chiefs were in there and they thought, well, we needed Drew Brees because they didn't want to put Taysom Hill out there in a game against the best team they've played for a while and get stomped on. And to be fair, the defense did their part. The defense did their part. They made the Chiefs punt. What was it, 7 times?
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty impressive.
Well. So I guess my question to you on this is, given that he has these broken ribs, we know they're not healed. You've already clinched the playoffs. For me personally, I would set Breeze for the next 2 games.
If the chance for the first round bye was out of reach, which it potentially will be next week, if Green Bay win and New Orleans lose, and I still don't know what the tiebreak would be if they both finished on 12 wins.
The problem is, like, they're playing on a short week. They're at Minnesota are coming to them. I would play the punt returner.
The Vikings are the Saints' bogey team. If you look over the last 2 years, just for whatever reason, doesn't matter when they play the Vikings, somehow absolute bogey team. And whether that's because Zimmer's got the number, or whether just because the Minneapolis miracle happened and then for whatever reason they just never showed up in the playoffs last year, Minnesota seemed to strike the fear of God into New Orleans for such a reason. But yeah, I think you have to play them. You play them against Minnesota. You just have to go with who you think your best team is, and if you still think that Breeze 70% gives you a better chance to operate the offense as you want, albeit in a more limited manner than with the punt returner back there as a punt protector, really. Then yeah, I think you play Breeze. You see how the games play out, and if you're still with the possibility of getting the first round bye in the last week of the season, then you play him. If, however, it's a case of no, the Packers have got it sewn up, then you sit him, because you're going to have him as at full strength as possible if you're going to be playing a game outside of the dome, or a dome, any dome.
And that's why I would sit him. Like, you won't know the Packers game because you play on Christmas Day. So what's the point in risking it? Just sit him. Play Taysom.
You just keep him. No, it's just about keeping them in contention, because if I just think the better chance is with Breeze playing is starting. So as long as that option for the first round bye is still theoretically possible, however unlikely, I think you keep Breeze in, and then if after next week that it's done, you'll sit him for the final week, let him get a little bit of rest, recuperation, get some of the soreness out, and then come back for the first week of the playoffs.
The Chiefs covered in this game, which is a note, since it's the first time they've done it in a couple of weeks.
Did they?
Yeah, because they were only 3. They were 3.5.
Mm-hmm.
So it was within my rule of they're under a touchdown. Back the Chiefs.
Do you want to count how many points they won by?
Well, it was right there. Oh, God damn it. I didn't see that it was 3.5. Fuck. All right. Well, okay. The Chiefs did not cover once again.
Yeah. Rules be damned.
Yeah, for several weeks. So again, just in cruise control. But they're still the best team. I still think they're the best team in football. And if the playoffs are going to have to go through Kansas, I don't know who from the AFC can knock them off.
Legitimately, I think the Titans are probably the first name that I would talk about.
Yes.
Titans are the first name that I would talk about if they got a little bit of a lead. Kansas had one of their slow starts, and then they just rode Derrick Henry and managed to stuff him. But I mean, the problem for the Titans is that they have absolutely no pass rush whatsoever, and they would allow Mahomes to essentially play a pass ball, which is never what you want to do. So there's no good answer for who could potentially beat the Chiefs on their side of the playoffs at all. Never mind on the NFC. I mean, if KC get to the Super Bowl, I think they're going to beat anybody from the NFC. But we digress.
We digress. Browns took on the Giants in the Freddie Kitchens revenge game, and Freddie Kitchens lost, as is his custom. Browns 20, New York Giants 6. Yeah, that's. I was high on the Giants, and I just put my stink on them. I'm sorry, Sam.
Well, I came down hard. Did you take the Giants in this game?
Did I take the Giants in this game? No, I did not. I took Cleveland.
So common sense prevailed, because there was no chance that was going to be, that they were going to get anywhere close to that, as far as I was concerned. And especially as again, they've started Colt McCoy. it is what it is. You're going to be limited because of that. You don't have Saquon Barkley. You're going to be limited because of that. And your defense can only do so much. And I mean, they held them to 20 points. That's not bad. But your offensive side of the ball just could not keep up.
Yeah, and that's the issue. I think that's what the Giants will be addressing this offseason. And it'll be interesting to see what moves they make.
Yeah. Can I say I was quite interested for the fake that they ran. Obviously, Joe Judge being a special teams guy thought that they would run a fake very early in the game. Punter throwing the ball, which I never think is a great idea. But they had did you not see this?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, but they tried to be smart. They tried to be clever. They tried to run the kind of old. The end of man on the line of scrimmage isn't a tackle. See how the defense line up to it and whether or not they account for them. And Cleveland did manage to adjust, but I tell you what, you don't see the kicker running free and clear on a slant in behind the linebacker, and that's where the ball should have gone. But of course, I don't think the punter had really. I don't think he had 2 reads on the play. I think he only had 1.
Yeah, I think it was definitely a half-field read. Probably not even that.
No, it was basically a kind of 3-yard wide. Just throw it from point A to point B in a straight line, and hopefully they don't pay attention to the fact that the snapper is the end man on the line of scrimmage is actually an eligible receiver. So,
let's wrap up. Monday Night Football. Steelers, Bengals. Bengals 27, Steelers 17. Steelers are in free fall. we said we were worried about them when they were 11-0, but come on, Pittsburgh, you didn't need to prove it to us.
Yeah, I mean, my roller coaster ride with the Pittsburgh Steelers is really quite something, because we went through the first 4 weeks of the year and we said they hadn't played anybody, and I was very worried because they weren't really beating up on teams. They weren't winning by more than 1 score. It was a bit kind of worrying. And then, of course, they won against the Browns, Titans, Ravens, and you think, all right, okay, so they've got a little bit of value wins there. And it continued then with the soft teams, but they weren't winning by more than 1 score. But their defense, because they were playing all these poor teams, was ranked number 1. And I never called them frauds, and I didn't, and I never thought that they were frauds. I just thought that there was something about the Steelers that I couldn't quite put my finger on. And I think this last run of games is essentially what it is. I don't think it's because they're injured. I don't think it's because they're missing a running back. I think that's not what their offense is based on. I think they've just totally melted mentally. And the kind of way that we envisaged talking about the Browns, the Ravens, and the Steelers in this AFC North playoff race is now coming to fruition. I don't see them winning against the Colts if they play like they did against the Bengals, the Bills, or Washington. And then they come into the last game of the season where who knows what's going to happen. But if you're looking at the AFC if you're looking at the AFC playoffs and thinking who's going to be in the AFC Championship, I think you would probably stay away from anybody in the AFC North just now.
Yeah, I still think the Pittsburgh defense is pretty good. I think they're just getting gassed just now because that offense just cannot stay on the field. I still rate them. I think the issue is on offense, and I think it's the issue is wearing number 7.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's getting old and he's had an elbow injury, and it's probably not crazy to say that he might be the problem. He is playing a lot shorter. The ball doesn't have as much zip going down the field as it used to. He's just barely managed to complete over half of his passes on Monday night. And the receiving core that we talked about last week didn't really give him a lot of help. So fair play to the Bengals for getting the lead and then managing to keep it. I mean, that was the main thing that you would always worry about the Bengals. Even if they had a 10-point lead, a 17-point lead, could they keep it? I mean, it got a little bit closer for comfort than they wanted towards the end of the fourth there. So I don't know, man. I think the AFC North is
turgid.
No, I don't even think turgid's right. I mean, I think they are the false flag of the NFL right now. I don't really know what I mean by that, but that's what I'm going with.
Okay. Shall we move on to the picks for Week 16?
If we must.
We must. It is the custom. Christmas Day, Daniel.
9:30 on Christmas Day.
9:30 on Christmas Day. We will be stuffed with turkey. We will be stuffed with turkey, and then the NFL will deliver us a lovely little treat at 9:30. Minnesota at New Orleans. New Orleans are favoured by 7 points.
It's a bit rich. It's in a dome. Is there a super church?
There must be a mega church in New Orleans.
That's why it's a mega church, not a super church. That must be something different. +7, New Orleans. We just talked about whether Breeze should start or not. If Breeze is starting, then that 7 looms a little bit large for me. Even if it was Taysom, that's +7 would still loom a little bit large for me.
Yeah.
And no way that I kind of take everything out, put it back in. Minnesota are just good enough on either side of the ball to cause a problem some way. And so I think, this could be one of the situations where we have Minnesota losing in the first quarter, and then all of a sudden Kirk Cousins rattles off 300 yards and 3 TDs in 3 quarters. So I'm quite happy to go with Minnesota +7.
Yeah, I'm going to take Minnesota +7 here as well. Boxing Day at 6 o'clock our time. That is 1 o'clock on the East Coast for our American listeners. Tampa Bay at Detroit. Tampa Bay are favoured by 8.5 points here.
Still too rich for me. There's a good chance I might go with every underdog today. Detroit, they've had a wee bump with Darrell Bevel, a little bit of open up freedom. Don't get me wrong, Tampa Bay did well to come back and beat Atlanta, but they still got themselves into a 17-point hole. The defense, the shine is totally off it. Said that about 5 weeks in a row. But Detroit have just enough to play around with that 8.5. I think it'll probably be just on that stretch. So I'm quite happy to take the +8.5 for Detroit.
Yeah, I'm going to take Detroit here as well. Short week. That is too high a line on a short week. 49ers at Arizona. Arizona are favoured by 4.5 points.
Don't care. I'm so checked out on Arizona just now. I've really, doesn't matter. They're like them in Green Bay. Doesn't matter which side I pick on. I'm always wrong, and I have been for about the last half of the season. Looks like CJ Beathard might get the start for San Francisco. Nick Mullins' time, the Nick Mullins era is over if there ever was one. Arizona need to win to keep their playoff hopes alive and dash Chicago's chances. So that's enough motivation for them. But this is obviously 2 teams that are now based both in Arizona. So there's not going to be any travel involved for San Francisco. That being said, no. Arizona, I think, still. Just give me the 4. Take me down to the 4. I don't like the number at all, but give me 4.
So you want Arizona -4?
I want Arizona -4.
There we go. Right. Next game is we're on to the Sunday games. Oh no, sorry, we're still on Boxing Day. This one is at 1:15 in the morning our time. Can't be bothered doing the maths for American listeners. Use your clock. Miami at Las Vegas. Miami are favoured by 3 points here. I am going to take an emotional pick here, and I'm going to go for Las Vegas because I like Marcus Mariota.
How strange. This is probably the best of the 3 Boxing Day games, and it's really annoying that obviously it's in prime time when they've got such stinkers elsewhere. I've got a real problem with the schedule makers and fucking what's on prime time in the NFL just now, but I digress. I'm out on Miami. I'm willing to put that little bit of faith in Brian Flores' scheme and Belichick's scheme, always having a little bit of a difficulty with a mobile quarterback. We'll see if that's incorporated into what the Raiders do, not having a mobile quarterback as their starter for the majority of the season. But I imagine they'll always have a wee package, especially if you believe that Gruden was being so influenced by his time, in learning from college coaches and what he was doing before he came back to the league at ESPN. So we will see. But what's the line again?
It is 3 points.
Yeah. Field goal game, Las Vegas. Quite happy to have that.
Okay.
I think Tua's going to have, as much as I lament the Las Vegas pass rush, I think Tua's going to have a difficult time against that front.
Okay. Now we're on to the Sunday games. Early games, Atlanta at Kansas City. Kansas City are favoured by 10.5 points. They've not covered any spreads recently. I am going to go for the Dirty Birds and ATL.
Yeah, I just think the skilled players match up better against the Atlanta secondary. Again, I don't see much of a pass rush in Atlanta, so Mahomes will have all the time that he wants. Give me just the 10, and I'll take Kansas City.
Okay. That's the first one that we've disagreed on this week. Carolina at Washington. Washington are favoured by 2.5 points. No idea who's actually going to start for Washington.
Carolina. You're talking about an emotional pick. I just like them overall. I'm willing them to 5 wins. So Carolina +2. They always play it tight. And yeah, Teddy is quite good at getting the ball out quick, no matter what. And so you'll no doubt be kind of thinking you like the Washington front, and you're entitled to go with it as you do. But I just think that Teddy's game is getting the ball out quick, and that'll negate a little bit of the effect of that front. So I'm willing to take Carolina.
No, you're correct. I just like that Washington front, and I think they're going to give Teddy Two Gloves a lot of problems all day. So 2.5 points, happy to take Washington. Chicago at Jacksonville. Chicago are favoured by 7.5 points here. I think that's too high for me, and I'm going to take Jacksonville.
I like chaos. Chicago have managed to fix their offense slightly. Jacksonville have not fixed anything, despite the Minshew returning. Give me 7. I'll take Chicago just because I want that little bit of chaos. I want that little bit of column inches to be written about why Trubisky should stay when he definitely shouldn't.
Cincinnati at Houston. Houston are favoured by 9 points here, which I found quite surprising coming off the Bengals win. But, Deshaun, absolutely incredible. I'm going to take Cincinnati again. I just don't think there's enough around Deshaun for him to win by more than a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, big confidence boost in that win, and there's not a lot of confidence in what's going on in Houston, despite some good performances. But 9 points, very, very difficult to say to not take that 9 points and for Cincinnati.
Cleveland at the New York Jets. Cleveland are favoured by 9.5 points here.
Why so high? Why so high?
I know the Jets are coming off a win.
The mighty Jets.
I can see this, but wait, if Cleveland get up by a couple of touchdowns with their style of offense, which is just built off that run game, they can kind of keep the Jets away. Yeah, I'll take Cleveland here.
Too high for me, and I'm not saying that with my tongue in my cheek. I just think that the Giants managed to take care of a relatively sophisticated...
The Jets.
The Jets took care of a pretty solid run game from a Rams team, and despite what everybody thinks of the offense, I think they've probably just got enough to keep them in it, not to win, but certainly to keep them within 9 points. So I'll take the Jets +9.
Okay. Indianapolis at Pittsburgh. Indianapolis are favoured by 1.5 points.
Yeah, look, I'm just going to take Indy. I believe in Indy.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. The way Pittsburgh are on this skid, I can't see that offense doing much against Indianapolis. Giants at Baltimore. Baltimore are favoured by 12.5 points here.
It's a bit much, I think.
Yeah.
It's one of these overreactions to kind of winning by 30 plus points the week before. 26 points the week before. And they took their foot off the gas. So 12 points, yeah. Giants defense, you've always convinced me on weeks where I shouldn't be convinced that they managed to, keep a running team in check, and they managed to do okay against the Cleveland Browns. So yeah, okay. Give me Giants +12. I feel dirty.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Giants as well. I'm doing it for Sam. Denver at the Chargers. Chargers are favoured by 3 points. I believe in Herbert. I'm going to go Chargers.
Yeah, there's no DBs in Denver just now. I'm quite satisfied that Chargers are going to win by more than 3 quite handily.
Okay. The dismal, awful Los Angeles Rams at Seattle. Seattle are favoured by 1 point.
Hey, they did what no one else is willing to do.
Lay down.
They should be respected for that.
Save Trevor Lawrence from New York.
Yeah. He likes the warmer weather anyway. Big divisional game. And these, the Rams have actually had Seattle's number, I think, for the vast majority of these. I can't remember whether that's right or not. That's what's in my head, that the Rams have actually managed to have the Seahawks number in these games recently. Yeah, Rams have won 5 of the last 4. So I'll take the Rams.
Okay. I will go with the Seahawks. Because, I like their uniforms. There you go. That's my in-depth analysis. Philadelphia, Dallas, no love lost between these two teams. Philadelphia are favoured by 1.5 points.
No, taking the Cowboys.
Okay. I am going to take Jalen Hurts because it pains Carson Wentz every time he succeeds. Tennessee at Green Bay. Green Bay are favoured by 3 points.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a game where all the questions about Green Bay begin, even though they've got that starting spot, and I want it to go into the next week with a question about the Saints or the Packers. So I'm just going to root for chaos, and I'm going to take the Titans.
That's fair. I have put money on Derrick Henry to win MVP, so I'm going to take Tennessee.
So we've got a real biased pick there, nothing based on actual fact or reality.
No, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Although it is supposed to be a cold weather game, good chance of snow, Sunday night football. So I think it's just going to lean into the run game.
I think it's just going to be a game where if we want to actually have some sort of semblance of reality, I think this is a game where Mike Pettin lets the Packers down significantly again. And that's all that we hear for about the next 2 weeks running up to the playoffs.
Okay. Monday Night Football. Buffalo at New England. Buffalo are favoured by 7 points here.
14, 21, doesn't matter.
Yeah. This is one of the games where I think Buffalo are going to rub it into New England. Think of all the years that New England have stomped on Buffalo when they've been down. And this Buffalo team is it's got an edge to it, which I really like. So I think they really come out here and rub New England's nose in the dirt. So
yeah, I am legit willing to put £5. Yeah, big spender, I know, but I'm legit willing to put £5 on the Bills winning by about 28, 30 points.
To be honest, I would put them at 20. Buffalo by 20, I would be comfortable putting a $5 on it. Because we bet responsibly. But yeah, I'd definitely take Buffalo in this one. And 7 points is not a high enough line to scare me off, especially the way Cam Newton's been played.
Mm-hmm.
What else have New England got to provide any type of offense? And the defense is, I think that's Gilmore done for the year now.
Yeah, he's got a torn quad, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, so who's going to cover Diggs? There's nothing that they can do.
Who's going to cover John Brown? Who's going to cover Cole Beasley?
Yeah, it's just it's set up to be a bad night for New England. But you've dished out your lumps, so you have to take them.
Let's see.
Yeah. Well, that wraps it up for this festive Christmas edition of our show. I hope you have all enjoyed it, and we've got you through.
What's festive about it?
I don't know.
Games on Christmas Day. That's about it.
Games on Christmas Day. I'm guessing this is going to come out.
Yeah, at least we haven't kind of gone
Christmas
down
Day.
least we haven't gone down the route of which NFL player would be a reindeer on Santa's sleigh or some shit like that.
Oh, there's still time there.
No, there's not. Goodbye.
Yeah. Okay. So we will see you. We will see you next week when we look back on week 16 and look ahead to the final week of the NFL season. Sad reacts only. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and spread the word if you have enjoyed the show. And let's get as many people listening for the new year. Goodbye.